Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on how to win more games on your off roll. I know we all like to exaggerate and say that we get our off roll in 90% of our games and the system sucks and is bringing us down, yada yada yada, and whereas that may not be entirely true, it is a fact that if you're queuing up and playing dynamic queue, you're going to be getting your off roll every now and then. Dynamic queue is all about making the most of bad situations, and that starts right before you even get into game. If you're able to win more games on your off roll, you'll be able to climb that much more smoother. So without further ado, let's skip right into our first tip for winning more games on your off roll, and that is to play the adrenaline pumping, blood pulse raising, euphoria inducing, utility or tanky champions. Depending on what your off roll is, some good examples for this would be Janna support, Lulu mid, Maokai top, etc. Basically, you want to pick champions that don't need to hard carry and make the plays, and champions that don't need to win lane. And that might require some caffeine to keep you awake playing, but hey, this isn't a video on how to have fun on your off roll, you only care about winning, right? In your off roll, you want to play to your strengths, and generally speaking, your weakest time in the game will be the lane phase. Facing off against someone who is likely more knowledgeable about their role, champion and matchup makes it really hard for you to get the job done. Whereas in an ideal situation you'd want to come out a lane ahead, getting your off roll in the first place already nullifies the existence of an ideal situation. You may say, but if I don't hard carry and make the plays, no one will. Well, that's not really true now, is it? Let's not be telling porcupines. In solo queue, you'll be more or less matched up with people of a similar skill. These people are more than capable of carrying games, else, well, they wouldn't be at the same elo that you are. There's always at least one person in any game that carries the game, and chances of that person being on your team are just as likely as on the enemy's. And that's just statistical facts. You'd be surprised at how your teammates can perform if you help them to do so. On top of that, if you've gotten your off role, then it means someone else on your team has taken their main role, so you should have better performing allies. Having utility will mean that even if you aren't that ahead yourself, you'll still be useful for your team, and it's a similar story for tanks. Basically, just think of it like a Bob the Builder program. By working together, you get the job done. The second point is to not measure your success in a game by comparing yourself to your opposing laner, but instead how useful you'll be to your team. This one revolves more around attitude and how it will influence your decision making. You shouldn't be discouraged about not being ahead of your opponent. In fact, you should do what G2 did to their top lane and expect it. Not striving for dominance will help you to stay level-headed when you don't achieve that dominance, which you most likely won't. Don't tilt because the enemy has a CS lead on you. Don't feel like a burden to your team. Chill out, relax, it's all good. Regarding how it influences your decision making, when you perceive yourself as being behind, you may be more prone to making risky plays in order to get back into the game. Of course, in theory, this is not a bad way to play when you're behind. If you sit back and do nothing, you'll just fall further and further behind. Taking risks may be, well, risky, but at least it gives you a chance to get back into the game. However, the problem in this specific case is that you really shouldn't be viewing yourself as behind, even if you are. Playing standard and, if necessary, safe will best set you up for later on in the game, considering you don't need to be the one making the plays yourself. Thirdly, a really obvious, but honestly the most important one, practice your off roll. I know, I said it, who'd have thunk that practicing something would make you better at it. Legit point though, people complain that they get their off roll, but why is that such a big deal? It just means that one of your allies is now playing something that they main. Unless of course it's a big deal because you suck at your off roll. For some reason people write them off, but normal games are still a really good way to be practicing different roles and champions without having the pressure to win. It doesn't really matter the quality of competition you come up against, you just need to get more used to the champion that you're playing and how the dynamics of your role work. For example, in top lane you've got to learn how to use teleport properly. As someone who has top lane Nautilus as their off role and champion, let me tell you that it is by far the trickiest part of the role. Always being aware of what's going on in the map and having the presence of mind to know when to make a play and when not to. I'm still far from perfect at it, but by playing normals and focusing on that one specific element, teleporting, I became a lot better at it. Sometimes you don't even need to focus on anything specific, just playing more of a champion can really help you to get a better overall feel for them and to increase your confidence. I learned by playing more games, for example, that Nautilus isn't that great at extended trades, but is really strong when his W is up. So, whereas I may not know a lot of lane matchups specifically because I don't get to play top lane all that much, I know how to play my champion itself, and therefore I can still play to my own strengths and see decent success despite who I'm going up against. Before we get on to the next point, I just want to thank you all for watching so far, and if you are enjoying this video, please do slap that like button. If you're not enjoying it, then there is obviously something wrong with you, because I am perfect and everything I do is sublime, and there couldn't possibly be a reason for you to not like what you're seeing. I would definitely therefore recommend to go consult a doctor immediately. And just because I know there's going to be that one guy who sends me hate mail for saying this, yes, that was sarcasm. Not the part about thanking you for watching. I genuinely do appreciate that, and so does Shad, but he's a dog, so yeah. Now next up, you win more off-roll games if you focus on other facets of carrying outside of simply wrecking the enemy team. That tends to be the go-to definition of carrying games, probably because it's the most easily identifiable one, but it's far from the only way to do it. What I mean here is to be more of a strategist and a cheerleader. A lot of games are lost simply because teams don't have any sense of direction. They're not sure what to do, when to go in, where to go, when to not go, etc. I would know this because I tend to lose a lot of games when I'm streaming due to this very reason. I can get fed and get the team ahead in the early game, but for some reason my brain struggles to make space for macro decision making when I'm live on Twitch, which you should go follow me down below in the description. It's a valuable tool to have, and if you can do it in solo queue, it will definitely improve your chances of winning. You may argue that teammates never listen to your calls, and whereas that may well be true at times, more or less if you spam ping, people will take notice. I would love to give more details here about how to do that more effectively, but it's a really large topic that varies from game to game. I would say the best way to learn it though is to look back on your games and see where your team looks like it's not achieving much and ask yourself why. Look to either push towers, take objectives like Dragon, the Herald or Baron, or just go and teamfight. Whenever thinking about what to do, ask yourself these 4 questions. Can we do this? What is the likely outcome if we try this? What do we stand to gain from this? And what does the enemy team stand to gain from this? If you can answer positively to all those questions, go ahead and make the play. Being a cheerleader is an undervalued part of League 2 though. I don't mean you have to sleep with all the members of your team, but just try to keep your team spirits high. Always shower them with praises, be overly kind to them, and take blame even when it's not your fault. If you want to know why that is, I have a video called The Blame Game already on my channel, which will go into more detail about why taking blame, even when it's not your fault, can be good for your team. Overall though, all of these things will keep your team performing at their best and not worrying about the unnecessary crap that comes with toxicity in League. The last point I want to make here, which I briefly touched upon before, is to not try too hard to make plays. You don't need to be the hero. If you're not playing something you're overly competent on, then chances are you don't even have the capabilities to be the hero. Trust in your team. Yes, they may be a bunch of solo queue bonobos. You may not like the idea of having to rely on them, but at the end of the day, the enemy team is full of the same bonobos, and League is ultimately a team game. I think that just about does it for what I want to say for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give that thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for more educational League content. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All those things are down below in the description, guys. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.